Pam and Tommy is a brand new series now streaming on Hulu, which of course follows the story of Pamela Anderson, a real life actress and model, as well as Motley Crue drummer Tommy Lee, in the story of how back in the 90s their sex tape was exposed to the whole world. And that is a really interesting story that I was excited to see explored in the series because first of all, I don't really know much about the story because I wasn't even alive back then, but also just to see the story from their perspective specifically, and I thought that was really an interesting concept because it makes you think about things in a completely different way. So, anyways, guys, today we're talking about this series. The first three episodes just dropped on Hulu last Wednesday, and it's going to be weekly episode release, so new episodes each Wednesday on Hulu. I believe there's 8 episodes in the series. It is a mini-series, and again, is going to be following this story. And so today we're just talking about the first 3 episodes. I don't think I'm really going to talk about any spoilers. So if you haven't already watched it, then basically this video is going to be telling you why you should watch it because this show is amazing. But before we get too far into talking about how great this series is and like everything I love about it, I do have to say like how mature this show is. Like, I mean, it was expected with just, the whole concept of the show literally being about a sex tape. So of course there's nudity. There's like a lot of nudity, like a lot, especially in episode 2. That's where things really go down. But of course the language and everything else going on here, it's very, very mature. So do not watch this with kids. Honestly, I probably shouldn't even be watching this at my age, but I still did anyway, and I appreciate it for its you know what I mean. It's a great series. It really is. Just don't watch it with anyone below high school level, I'd say, at least. But it really is a great series, and I really enjoyed these first 3 episodes. And that is mostly due to the performances. I mean, we have great performances from our leading stars with Sebastian Stan as Tommy Lee and Lily James as Pamela Anderson, which, by the way, just their transformations. That I watched an interview with the two of them talking about the show after I watched these 3 episodes, and just the differences between seeing them in the show and seeing the actors in real life. It's just such a huge difference. They look completely different, sound different. It's great. They really do I think personally, in my opinion, give career best performances here. I've been a previous fan of Sebastian Stan, of course, in the MCU, the Marvel Universe, as Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, and I've seen Lily James in a couple different movies as well. But seeing them in this whole different light here in these roles was just a game changer. I mean, they really are so perfect in these roles. You could tell that they really did their research to channel these characters, and they're not even characters, they are actual real life people, and that's what's so interesting about it. And another thing I wasn't really expecting about this, again, because I don't know the story that much, is that what I was kind of expecting this series to be is to just focus on these 2 characters, but it doesn't. We also have Seth Rogen in here as the guy that actually is the one that steals the sex tape in the first place. And he almost actually kind of feels like the main character of the show. At least based off the first 3 episodes, he does kind of feel like the main character of the show, because the first episode is all about him. It's all about his character, really building up his, I guess you could say, kind of origin, his motivations for why he wants to steal the sex tape, how he steals it, and all that stuff. And you really get to explore his journey throughout that in the 3rd episode, because in the 2nd episode is, of course, focusing on Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson, and not only exploring how they, of course, actually make the sex tape, but also just their love story, which was another interesting thing I was not all expecting. But if you know the story, then you probably already knew this, but the fact that they like got married like 4 days after they met, it's crazy. And that's kind of what I kind of went back and forth on this watching episode 2. It was so interesting because you can tell that they really do love each other, but then again, it's like the question of like, did they rush into things too much, and like really, is it a good loving relationship, or was there a bit of toxicity there? And there is some behind the scenes stuff that really isn't mentioned or brought up here with Tommy Lee in this series, but there is some real life stuff with that guy that kind of explains that it might not have been the greatest relationship, but you really do see the love that they have for each other. And kind of like that, like they were trying to start a family, they wanted to have kids and do all that stuff, but then all of a sudden they're just struck by this tragedy in episode 3 with their sex tape being released to the world. And that's another thing where it's just like, I just feel so bad for the kids now too, like especially imagine like today, in today's day and age, like their kids grown up now, especially I mean with a TV show being made about their parents, that'd be pretty uncomfortable. So I kind of feel bad for them, but it really is a great series. It kind of is a character study for these people, and again shows it from that other perspective because. Like I mentioned before, I wasn't even born yet when this thing happened, but I can assume that, you know, celebrity sex tape released to the world, that you know, obviously that's a big thing that people are all over and trying to get their hands on and everything, but you really need to take a step back and really think about it, how that is actually affecting these people and their lives. Having that type of exposure, it's not great. It can really ruin their lives, and kind of did, and still haunts them to this day. And that's something I really love about the series and got me really interested in this in the first place. And you know, I know a lot of people actually are going to check out the series mainly for the nudity. Both fans of Lily James and Sebastian Stan, which, speaking of that, Sebastian Stan, if you haven't heard already, he literally has like a full-on 5-minute conversation with his penis, which is not something at all I ever thought I would have to see, but I did, and it was an interesting experience. And it's actually funny, I read some more behind the scenes stuff about it after I watched the episodes, about how like they had an animatronic puppet to do that, and how they're comparing it to Yoda in like the original Star Wars trilogy. It was really hilarious. But it is actually interesting though, because it may seem ridiculous when that does actually happen in episode 2, when he has that conversation, but it is actually based off a real life thing from Tommy Lee's memoir, where he actually had his penis as a character that talked to him. And yeah, it's kind of crazy how that happened. I remember actually when I first heard about that, before the series even came out, I think it was like a little after the trailer came out, I just saw this news report about I don't remember the guy's name, but just like so and so cast as Tommy Lee's penis in Pam and Tommy. It's just, oh, what? Okay then. And now actually seeing it, it makes sense. It kind of works with the character, and it's interesting. This show is so interesting because it balances all these characters so well, and you get to see everything from each person's perspective. And I'd say probably Tommy Lee is the one that you really least get to feel for, because for Seth Rogen's character, obviously he has big motivations as to why he wants to get back at Tommy Lee for firing him and doing all that stuff, and he just kind of wants to get revenge against him. And Pamela Anderson, you feel for her as well, especially you see in episode 2, like before she even meets Tommy, like when we it's kind of like a flashback or like a prequel to episode 1, before they even meet, that she's already at a rough spot in life. She's already had a bad history with guys. She's like, oh, I'm done with bad boys. But then all of a sudden Tommy Lee shows up and is like, oh, never mind. And then her whole life changes once again, and her whole thing with being on Baywatch and basically just being used as a thirst trap, like she doesn't get the respect she deserves. And it's really compelling. It really is a compelling story, and I'm really excited to see where things go in episode 4, because with these first 3 episodes, I am already hooked. And like I said, I know a lot of people are gonna watch this just for the nudity, but if you are one of those people, okay, cool, good for you, and you'll probably enjoy yourself quite a bit. But stay for the rest of it, because it really is worth it. It really is such an interesting story with these complex characters that is a real true life story. And I mean, even 3 episodes in, we're just now getting into it. Like, episode 3 is literally just when the sex tape first went online, and we still haven't even seen Pam and Tommy's reaction to it yet. And that'll happen, of course, in next week's episode, which I'm really excited to see. But it's definitely a slow burn, especially considering we only have 8 episodes in the series. But I'm so excited to see where things go, because it is such a compelling, such an interesting story that I am excited to see explored. And I love these first 3 episodes, and I cannot wait to see where things go from here. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you watched the first 3 episodes of Pam and Tommy, you can let me know your own thoughts in the comments below. Do your own little mini review as well. And where do you think things are going to go next? Also, if you were there and alive, unlike me, when this actually happened in real life, let me know your perspective of this, of like what it was like for you when this whole world phenomenon thing happened. So yeah, guys, anyways, I'm definitely not doing weekly episode reviews or anything like that. I might possibly do a full series review when the 8 episodes are done, but I'm definitely going to keep watching this show week by week, because it's just so good. It really is a great series, great acting, great story, great directing. Everything about this show is really amazing, and I'm excited to see where things go from here. But anyways, guys, for now, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I can keep up to date on everything goes on in the movie life.